Welcome to the Meant to Be Outdoors podcast, where our goal is to connect listeners to the great outdoors, with hosts Brian Hoffmeyer and Ben Brandell.
I'm host Ben Brandell, owner of Meant to Be Outdoors, instructor of outdoor skills, and passionate about personal growth.
I'm host Brian Hoffmeyer, wildlife biologist and avid outdoorsman. Welcome to the Meant to Be Outdoors podcast. It's Myth Monday. I'm your host Brian Hoffmeyer, here with my co-host Ben Brandell. And today we're taking flight. We are going to the skies to dispel a myth. What are we dispelling, Ben?
We are talking today about birds of prey. And these birds of prey are, Brian and I have actually got to have some experience with these birds of prey.
Yeah. Handle them, feed them, work with them, train them even.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of you have probably seen this bird while driving down the highway, looking over left or right and seeing this black bird.
If you haven't seen it, you don't get out much.
That's true. That's right. Seeing this black bird down eating something, probably, hopefully dead.
So just take a quick second. If you see a big black bird on a dead deer, you're going to call it?
Well, that's what we're going to talk about today, because there's some confusion behind that. Growing up, a lot of people in my life would have called that a buzzard.
Right.
And
I even know places that we fish, a place called Buzzard Bay, and it's named after these big black birds that are in these dead trees that are there. When we go to fish there, what do we see?
We actually don't see buzzards.
We don't see buzzards.
We don't. They are called
vultures.
That's right. Good. So, we are going to be talking today about the difference between buzzards and vultures.
That's right. So let's start with a vulture. It's one of the most common birds of prey. They're actually scavengers. So what that means is they're not actively hunting to kill something. They're looking for animals that are dead. They're a super important part of our ecosystem because they're really cleaning up for us, right?
They are. And I think to give everybody a picture of which bird we're talking about, going back to the days of Jungle Book as a kid, you'd see the vultures in the tree.
I think they were supposed to be the beetles.
Is that what they were supposed to be? I don't remember that, but yes, those birds, those are vultures.
Right. So they're bald-headed. They've got no feathers on their head. They're big and black. Around here in most of the U.S., we're going to have mainly just our two species of turkey vulture and black vultures. Those are going to be the main two that we see. They're looking for carrion, which means dead animals that they're going to eat. But over and over and over again, you'll hear them called buzzards. You'll see it in movies. Westerns use this
the Westerns,
a lot.
They do. Mm-hmm.
You see it all the time. Or you'll be riding with somebody in the car, and you'll hear them say, "Those nasty buzzards, I can't believe they just eat dead stuff." Or, "Look at all the buzzards on that over there." See them circling in the sky. What do people always say when they see 20 of them circling in the sky? Something must be dead. You automatically think something's dead. So those aren't buzzards. Those are vultures. Now, it's not just a common term or a common slang term. There actually is something called a buzzard, so we should be calling them by the right thing. A buzzard is actually going to be in the buteo family, so hawks, like a red-tailed hawk, is a buzzard.
Mm-hmm.
So you would actually be more correct to call a red-tailed hawk a buzzard than you would be to call a vulture a buzzard. If you go overseas to Europe, there's going to be actual birds that their common name is buzzard. They have the gray-faced buzzard, the honey buzzard, the common buzzard, the black-chested buzzard, jackal buzzard, upland buzzards. There's a whole bunch of buzzards, but those are more like a hawk. No, they are hawks. They have talons, and they're using those talons to grip and kill.
Mm-hmm.
That's very, very different from a scavenging vulture, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you got to work with both of them, especially at Wonders of Wildlife.
Yeah.
As the trainer, you were working with both of those animals. And so that was a program that we taught a lot, the differences between the two. You just discussed a little bit about the vulture, but dig in a little more about the vulture, because there are some really cool, I think they're cool.
Love-hate relationship.
Yeah.
First of all, when I first started actually hands-on working with vultures, I didn't like them.
How come?
They're mean. They kind of stink. They can regurgitate on command.
Okay, they've got to hear about this. So when Brian first...
I don't know if you need to tell this one.
When Brian first started working with a turkey vulture...
I knew where you're going here.
Yeah, it was an awesome day. He had the opportunity... It was an opportunity to transport a turkey vulture. So during the moving process, when you're crating them, they're in the crate, and you're
basically
moving to
a big
the program.
Dog crate.
Yeah, it's a big, huge dog crate.
Yeah.
You got them loaded up, you got him going, and we got to the program. When we got there,
drove an hour down the windy, hilly road.
once we got to our destination, Brian had the opportunity again to check on that bird and get that bird prepared for the program. And Brian, I'd love for you to share with them what happened to you as you opened up or took the cover off to see the bird.
I really hope I don't display my weak gag reflex while I tell this story. I opened up this dog crate, and when I opened it up, there was just a pile of partially digested rat.
Right.
Partially digested rat and guts and its blood. It was awful.
Well,
that bird had eaten that morning. The smell. And so we got the bird out, and I was like, what are we going to do with this? And our boss at the time was like, well, you're the animal trainer. You need to get that cleaned out before we go home. And I didn't even...
He lost it, and we won't make any noises. But let's just say that Brian,
I was off in the woods by myself gagging
as the animal trainer. But they are stinky animals. I mean, when people think of a vulture, when you think of it eating dead stuff, of course it's going to stink. And the cool story about vultures is that they will regurgitate.
Well, my favorite thing about them is their intelligence.
Right.
They're said to be the most intelligent bird. Biologists are going to compare it to a 3 to 4 year old human's intelligence. So they literally can learn your behaviors. Something really cool when I first started working with that older male that we had, Socrates. He tested me, literally just like my 3-year-old wants to test the waters and see how far I'm willing to go. This bird almost harassed me, and eventually we built a relationship and a bond, and we were friends, and he wasn't mean to me anymore. He now was listening to my commands. When we first met, he wasn't doing that because he wanted to see if I was going to hold him accountable. A bird was expecting accountability from me, and that was powerful to me that little tiny head and brain was that intelligent and that smart.
Yeah, and I love that is that intelligent, but for its whole entire life, it will always be a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some challenges in that, just like you would today.
So it's a toddler the whole time. So let's talk about buzzards.
Buzzard.
So an actual buzzard. Well, let's take a red-tailed hawk, for example. They're going to spend most of their time actually hunting. They have super powerful talons. They can exert between 300 and 400 pounds per square inch of pressure in these talons. A vulture is not going to be able to do that. Now, do they have talons? Yes, but they're atrophied. So they're not going to go kill. Can they carry or pick up something? Yes, but they're not going to have this crazy exertion of power to go kill something. You can tell if you see them in the sky by their wing shape. Also, vultures are going to be more prone to group up, right? A group of vultures is called a wake, not a flock, which is kind of an interesting fact. But I hope that going forward in the future that you guys are going to see a hawk and understand that is a buzzard.
So there are differences. You have a buzzard and a vulture, and I think we've clearly helped explain and define the differences between them. But today is Double Myth Monday. So we also have Double Myth Monday. What is our double myth? Is that a chicken hawk out there in the tree, Brian?
Oh, it's eating my chicken.
Is it eating your chicken? So it's a chicken hawk?
I hate when they get my chickens.
Them chicken hawks.
Makes me so mad.
I tell you what. So, today we're talking about birds of prey. We have discussed the difference between buzzard and vulture. But real quick, Brian, when the locals, they say, hey, that's a chicken hawk, what might they be talking about in regards to chicken hawk?
They're probably talking about a red-tailed hawk.
Red-tailed hawk, yeah. Which we were just describing earlier. So, there are a lot of nicknames for animals, but why we wanted to bring clarity to this is because a buzzard is not a vulture, and a vulture is not a buzzard.
And there's no such thing as a chicken hawk.
And there is no such thing as a chicken hawk.
But that's truly a slang term.
Right.
Where when people are calling a vulture a buzzard, that's not a slang term because there really is a buzzard.
Right, correct.
So, awesome. That's why that's important. Again, you're going to hear us talk about truth and its importance. Ben, I appreciate you sharing and trying to embarrass me on this podcast with that story. I'm glad I didn't gag when I had to envision blood.
I just wish you guys could have been there. It was, I think it's probably humbling a little bit.
They were thankful they weren't there. Anyway, I hope you guys now have clarity on buzzard versus vulture. Most importantly, understanding that they are two different things. Thank you for listening to this episode of Myth Mondays with Meant to Be Outdoors. Between now and next week, we hope that you find some time to get outdoors and enjoy some time with family and friends. Thank you for listening to the Meant to Be Outdoors podcast, hosted by Brian Hoffmeyer and Ben Brandell. please help us by subscribing. Also, follow along on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook.